As an inclusive marketing strategist and consultant, one of the things I find myself having to educate clients on over and over again is the right way to think about marketing inclusively. At its core, inclusive marketing is all about helping you attract and retain more of the people who have the problem that your brand solves. So in this video, we're going to walk through 7 different examples of how brands approached inclusive marketing in an effective way that enabled them to attract and retain more of the people they intended to reach. But before we dive in, here's a quick reminder for you to give you some context. Good marketing is inclusive. Point blank, period. And the consumers you want to serve have a number of different identities that impact their decision-making process, their degree of success, as well as the experiences that they're having whenever they're considering whether or not to buy from you. Brands that acknowledge the many ways consumers are different and then find ways to better serve those differences are making a big impact with consumers and are growing as a result. So let's get into these examples of effective inclusive marketing. So the first one on the list is how Mattel leans into inclusive product design. Now, more than 300 million people around the world are colorblind. In the summer of 2003, Mattel announced its journey to making its games colorblind accessible. The brand noted that 80% of its games would meet the standard by the end of 2024, including Uno, Skip-Bo, and Kerplunk. And 90% of the portfolio would be colorblind accessible by year-end 2025. Now, a spokesperson for Mattel talked about what was the driving force behind the brand making these changes with their product design. They said, many games require color differentiation, and we want to ensure our Mattel games are accessible to as many users as possible. Now, as part of its inclusive product design process, the team collaborated with members of the design team who experience colorblindness. They also partnered with experts who focus on color deficiency and consulted with people who are part of the colorblind community. This co-creation effort with people who are part of the community as well as experts for people within the community helped the brand create a product that was going to work for as many people as possible within their intended audience. Now, some of the primary changes that Mattel made to make their games more colorblind accessible included adding symbols and icons. They added patterns and even tactile clues in some cases to help people differentiate between the colors.
I'm completely colorblind, and this is how I play Uno. I'm of course playing with Uno's colorblind accessible cards, which feature symbols to help me identify the colors. These cards make playing Uno inclusive and accessible to me, and I'm finally able to say Uno!
Alright, so the second example that we're going to walk through comes from Amped Fitness and how they were able to meet the needs of a specific subset of their customer group. Now, too often customers will have different experiences with the same product based upon their identity. For instance, when it comes to working out in a mixed gym environment, women often have a unique set of obstacles that can prevent them from achieving success at the same rates as their male counterparts. Those same obstacles can also prevent women from feeling safe, comfortable, and like they belong in a mixed gym setting as well. Amped Fitness recognized the need for a safe and comfortable environment for the women they had as customers, so they solved this problem by creating a women's only space in their gyms called the Babe Cave. This sector features a full range of equipment and offers women the opportunity to train free from the male gaze and other uncomfortable situations that negatively impact their gym experience. And the good news is more gyms are starting to offer these types of safe spaces for women. One woman captioned a TikTok video that she made about her experience at the women's only section of her gym with "never felt so comfortable working out." So the third example that we're going to talk about comes from Lysol and how they make decisions based upon deep consumer insights. In 2024, Lysol was named Best in Ad Effectiveness for the world's most culturally inclusive brands awards from the Association of National Advertisers Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing. Now, Lysol won this award for the second year in a row. Brands that score the highest in this category saw increases in common marketing KPIs such as purchase intent, brand trust, brand affinity, and brand recommendations. Gary Osifchin is the Chief Marketing Officer and General Manager at Reckitt US Hygiene, the makers of brands like Lysol, Woolite, Finish, and more. He told me that Reckitt's approach to marketing inclusively involves deep customer insights that inform decisions throughout all phases of the marketing mix.
I mean, I very much instituted an expectation as a leader of my marketing teams, first and foremost, to know who their consumers are from a diverse audience standpoint and understand, how they're doing in terms of household penetration, buy rate, frequency of purchase, what needs to be solved to better address the needs of consumers. Is it, that I mentioned scent? Is it product changes? How are they looking at graphics? What in our communications in terms of an insight, whether it's a Hispanic insight or it's representation of Black families using our Lysol products. First and foremost, what do we know? What's the baseline in terms of how we resonate or don't? And then what do we need to do to better resonate? And that's a lot of rich qual, a lot of in-home, a lot of upskilling and ensuring that we actually are speaking to diverse consumers to gain insight. And that insight then drives your communications and your product development. And then you have to have quantitative testing as we do in all of our comms and our product development to ensure that against the audience segments that you wanted to do something better with and resonate more with, are we actually doing that? Are we actually delivering a better fragrance experience with our Lysol Brand New Day products amongst the target consumers of African American and Hispanics? The answer is yes, we are, because we developed it based on insight and then we tested it to ensure that we were delivering against it. And then we communicate, big brand Lysol in a way that is truly, grounded in consumer truths that resonate, and that we represent Asian, African American, Hispanics in our advertising.
All right, so the fourth example we're gonna walk through is how Google Pixel 8 goes all in on representation. Representation is a common on-ramp for many brands when they're getting started with inclusive marketing. But oftentimes, representation can feel inauthentic, like a brand is just trying to check a box. No bueno. So the good news is that Google took a more effective approach to representation in its 2024 Super Bowl ad, and it made it much more effective and memorable as a result. The Google Pixel 8 has features that work well for people who are visually impaired. And highlighting one of those features, the brand spotlighted a visually impaired actor in the ad. This is significant because disability representation in marketing is low in comparison to the number of people worldwide who have a disability. The ad was also narrated by musical legend Stevie Wonder, who is also blind. In addition to the talent featured in the ad, the brand also hired a blind director, ensuring a representation behind the camera as well. Now, this is an inclusive marketing best practice that I want to make sure to point out to you, because representation should be present throughout all parts of the production process, not just with the talent that you're choosing in front of the camera. All right, so the fifth example that I want to show you today comes from Netflix and how the brand is making multilingual content the standard. So last year I was struck by a comment that was made by Jess Bromwell, who was the season 3 and 4 showrunner for the hit series Bridgerton. Now, this comment took me aback because Jess was explaining why it takes 2 freaking years for us to get a new season of Bridgerton. She noted, "We are working to try and put the seasons out more quickly, but they do take 8 months to film, and then they have to be edited, and then they have to be dubbed into every language." Now, ensuring the series is launched in every language that Netflix has available isn't just part of the production process for Bridgerton, it's very common for many Netflix shows, series, and movies. Fun fact for you, Netflix is available in 190 countries around the world, and it is available in 50 different languages. The brand knows that by expanding its reach through a language, it's able to attract and retain more customers. Now, the brand doesn't just translate content content as its only approach to reach people who speak different languages. It also leans hard into original content that is relevant to the local markets in which it's in. Also want to point out that this is best practice for a multilingual content strategy as well. You want to produce original content wherever possible for the people in the markets that you are trying to reach. One of the ways that Netflix does this efficiently is through extensions of already established franchises. For instance, the Love Is Blind franchise is available in 10 markets around the world, including the UK, Sweden, Brazil, Mexico, and Habibi. This original content approach for Netflix also includes shows and movies designed specifically for local markets. One example of this is the documentary Breaking the Silence, the Maria Soledad case, which is a story for Netflix Argentina based on a high-profile case in Argentina. But no matter where you are, if you're not in Argentina, you can watch it too. So the sixth example of inclusive marketing is how Procter & Gamble invests in minority-owned and operated media. So historically, as more brands have been engaging in inclusive marketing and really working to attract and retain people from underrepresented, underserved communities, they haven't always done the best job in investing in media that is owned and operated by those communities as a means to reach them. Ad spend with minority-owned and operated media is a measly 5% of the total ad spend. This pales in comparison when you look at the diversity of the population. Procter & Gamble is one company with very large spending power that is looking to shift where the investment goes to reach the different consumers that it's trying to engage. Because of that, as of 2021, Procter & Gamble decided that they are going to be very intentional about investing more in minority-owned and operated media. Doing so not only increases the reach for Procter & Gamble brands, but it also shows that the brands are committed to the communities of the consumers it's trying to reach. The brand also worked to make its publishing and programmatic ecosystem more inclusive by hiring creators from underrepresented and underserved communities. One of the ways the brands chose to do this was through its Widen the Screen initiative, which aimed to address inequality in media by broadening the representation of Black life on screen. Now, you don't have to have a media spend as large as Procter & Gamble to embrace this approach. Investing in minority-owned and operated media can be as simple as seeking out creators who are part of the underrepresented and underserved communities that you want to reach and sponsoring their podcasts, their YouTube videos, their social media content, and other projects that they're working on. And the last example I'm going to show you today comes from Amazon Alexa and how the brand challenged incorrect narratives. Now, marketing has a lot of power to influence not only what people buy, but marketers can also influence the way people feel about themselves and the way in which they view other people. That's why an important tenet of inclusive marketing is to change incorrect narratives and harmful stereotypes. Amazon Alexa took the opportunity to change an incorrect and harmful narrative a few years back during its Super Bowl commercial. The ad, which was targeted for quote-unquote general market, featured a dark-skinned Black woman with naturally kinky hair as the lead character. The narrative this talent selection and imagery communicated went against quote-unquote traditional standards of beauty that are shown in mainstream media and marketing. One research study showed that women with darker skin tones were the least represented in ads throughout all of 2023. Lighter-skinned women appeared in ads 4 times more frequently during that same time period of 2023. All right, it's time to make your marketing more inclusive. There are so many positive reasons to engage in inclusive marketing, including the positive impact it will have on your customers and the people you serve, as well as the positive impact it will have on your brand's growth and revenue. Get started by choosing the specific identities you want to serve, then brainstorm ways to make them feel like they belong with you throughout your marketing mix. And if you want even more info and support on how to attract and retain a bigger, more diverse, and fiercely loyal customer base, sign up to get the Inclusion and Marketing newsletter. Each week, I send news, resources, commentary, best practices, and other insights to help you attract, retain a bigger, more diverse, and fiercely loyal customer base. I will drop a link to sign up for the newsletter in the description below. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.